the first ever social media ban. Maybe, well, technically not the first ever because China does shit like this all the time. China, of course, bans outside social media apps and does have restrictions on social media use, but this is the first of its kind from a Western aligned country, and that being Australia. Australia made it illegal for children younger than 16 to use social media.
And that's happening in
Instagram,
Australia.
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Reddit, Kick. There was another one as well that I'm forgetting. And as I said in the intro, I have very mixed feelings about this because I believe that children should not be on social media. I truly believe that social media is akin to tobacco usage back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And not to toot my own horn here, but I literally grew up on social media. My generation is more familiar with social media than any other generation. But what separates people in my age group, those born those born anywhere from like 1990 to 2000, a little bit beyond all the old heads to some of you kids on social media, we remember what life was like pre social media. I have very vivid memories of not even having a fucking computer in my house, okay? Yes, that's how old I am. That's how old I am. But but I still grew up on social media. I've been online for more than half my life. I think I made my first Facebook account when I was 13, specifically against the wishes of my parents. I'm sorry, mom. I'm sorry, dad. But when I was in like 7th grade, my parents told me, no, you cannot have a Facebook account. I don't want you online. And I said, okay. And I made one. I made one anyway. My parents don't watch the show, but if they do manage to see this episode, I just would like to apologize for that. I've had Facebook. I was on Facebook in like 7th grade. I downloaded Instagram when it first came out. I've been on Twitter since like fucking 2012, YouTube since like 2008. I am very familiar with these social media apps, and I'm extra familiar with the harms of them as well. They are highly addicting and they are engineered to be that way. The user is extorted by the social platform. The user is the product, and these companies are going to do whatever they can to extract as much revenue from the user as possible, which means they are going to develop these apps specifically to keep users engaged. I've been off social media, not off, but I have drastically cut down on my time online over the last couple of years and this year in particular, and I do feel better. I do like I just I feel a sense of relief. I still have to be online because like I do this show, but I'm not doom scrolling. I'm not free scrolling like how I did. Now, when we talk about banning social media for children, I have an issue with it because it's not addressing the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the social media company preying on these children and profiteering off of these children. Banning children from using social media in Australia will most likely get some children off of social media, but it won't force the company to change their predatory habits. That's my hang up with this. There is also, and I mentioned this in the beginning, the age verification and the ID verification portion of this as well, which I also do not fuck with. I do not think that you should have to upload a fucking ID to a private company. That is a huge invasion of privacy. Not like it fucking matters because these companies know everything about you anyway, but it's just the principle of the situation, right? Nobody other than a government institution should be aware of your should have access to your identification cards. So that's not talked about in this video for some reason, which I think is a little strange. Now, there is also, they talk about parental responsibility in this video, and I'm not someone who, a huge piece of my worldview is rooted in in attacking the system. I don't typically criticize individuals who live within the system because they're they're just th- this is the world that we live in, and unfortunately sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do in order to survive, right? I understand that, but when it comes to social media in particular, I do think that parents need to they need to talk to their children and their teenagers as adults when they highlight the harms of these platforms. You can't just tell a child, you can't be on social media because I said so. Because children are inherently rebellious, and that is only going to compel them to act out and do the thing that the parent says they can't, that they're not allowed to do. You need to sit down with your teenager. And I'm not trying to armchair parent here. I don't have children, but if I did have children, this is what I would stress to them. Social media is harmful. It is harmful to you mentally and emotionally. Social media breeds depression, anxiety, body dysmorphia. You are also a potential victim. Like pedophiles can reach out to these children on these apps because there is no safeguard in place. You like Facebook doesn't even have a mechanism to prevent those older than 18 from reaching out and initiating conversations with underage people. In fact, I have a whole article from Time about 7 allegations against Meta and their failure to properly protect children on their platforms. There is no What I'm trying to say is that yes, children need to self-regulate. Parents need to educate their children. I do also believe there should be assemblies in school highlighting the dangers of social media. I don't know if this is a thing. I graduated high school in 2014. So I don't know if schools are attempting to teach children about the harms of social media, but they should. And I'm saying they should because they have anti-alcohol assemblies, they have anti-drug assemblies. In health class, you learn about why drugs and alcohol are dangerous. You learn actual reasons as to why you shouldn't do drugs and alcohol. But I'm not fucking naive, okay? Children are going to drink underage. Children are going to smoke weed underage. I did. It is a natural part of being a teenager. But I don't believe that. I believe if you want to minimize destructive behavior, you need to explain to this child, to the teenager, why what they're doing is harmful. You need to treat them as an adult. You can't, as I said, tell them that social media is bad because I said so. You need to bring an actual substantive, you need to bring actual substance to the conversation. But more importantly, because again, I don't want to hyperfixate on the individual. I want to hyperfixate on changing the system, and ultimately, it will be easier. Pardon me. It will be easier for the parent, for the school, to persuade children not to use social media if there are proper mechanisms in place, and if there's a way for children to safely use social media. Because, and I'm not gonna, I don't want to say that social media is entirely good, but platforms like YouTube and TikTok in particular can provide some sort of value in terms of study assistance, test prep. Like, I love YouTube for DIY how-tos, and you guys will learn. When you buy a house, everything sucks all the time. Everything breaks all the time. It's fucking horrible. but you have to learn how to fix things yourself, right? There was a time when we first moved into the house, the hot water on the shower was way too hot. And by going to YouTube, I learned that you can actually reduce the max temperature of your shower with a little valve that's hidden behind the the handle. So, I'm not saying that social media is entirely bad. It is mostly bad, especially platforms like especially platforms like wow, Freudian slip there, holy shit. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I believe that those platforms are just fucking disastrous. They're cesspools. I don't use Facebook. I hardly use Twitter. I hardly use Instagram. But ultimately, less social media is better, and that is the only thing that I agree with the Australian Prime Minister. I forget his fucking name. I do political commentary, by the way, and I can't remember the names of elected officials. But anyway, rant over. Let's go ahead. Let's listen to what CNN has to say about this. We are only going to watch half of this video because the second half of it, they talk to the former CEO of Instagram and Facebook for Australia, and I don't want to listen to a fucking wolf explain why it's actually good to fucking kill people.
It's now the first country in the world to ban social media for kids under the age of 16. The ban includes some of the most popular apps, such as Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And now many are wondering whether we could see other countries, including the United States, following suit. Just a short while ago, in an exclusive interview for CNN's streaming app, I spoke with South Australia Premier Peter Malinauskas, whose draft law inspired the nationwide ban in Australia, along with Jonathan Haidt, whose book, The Anxious Generation, was instrumental in leading to the ban. Here's just part of our conversation.
All we're saying is if you're under 16, if you're a 12-year-old, your mental abilities, your development of your brain isn't yet at a point to be able to handle the service. So they're going to get there eventually. But what's the harm in a 14-year-old not getting social media? I mean, what's the worst thing that's going to happen here? I mean, kids start texting each other or calling each other instead. Or meeting up at an oval to play some sport, or going to dance classes more actively, sitting around talking to their parents, playing with their brothers and sisters. I mean, brothers and sisters in their own families are sitting around in their lounge rooms all staring at a screen. Now they may not be. I mean, what's the worst possible outcome of that?
Let's discuss.
I, again, want to make it clear that I agree with his view I agree with his view on this. I agree with his justification for this ban. What I disagree with is the execution, because it's not fixing the root cause of the problem. It is not doing enough to deter companies from preying on children. I'm going to just fucking say it, actually. Companies like Facebook or Meta, if they fail to implement proper safeguards for children, I'm going to fine them 10% of their revenue from the previous fiscal year. If you want to implement change, you need to hit the companies where it hurts. And they're going to face, like, I think a $32 million fine or some shit if they don't, if they don't abide by certain restrictions. I think this is mostly in Europe, actually. That's fucking nothing. Meta made $160 billion in 2024. Their net income was like $65 billion or something outrageous. 10% of their revenue wipes out so much of their market cap. The shareholders get upset at Mark Zuckerberg, and they fucking, I don't know what they do to him. You get the first strike. The second strike, it's another 10 billion. The third strike, Mark Zuckerberg is going to fucking jail. I'm sick of him. Straight up. You're praying, and we have internal documentation about this as well, which we will talk about in the Time article, where the people who work at Facebook, they have such fucking brain disease that they are worried about the impact on their growth with implementing safeguards for teenagers. It's disgusting. And I'm talking like really simple measures like getting rid of likes. Okay, likes are gone. On Instagram, you can do this. You can hide your like total, but it's a setting that you have to initiate. Now, if you're a creator on this, you will still be able to see your engagement metrics. So that way you can partner with brands and still, generate revenue for yourself. But there is no fucking there's no reason for a teenage creator to exist. I'm sorry. That should just not be the case. Another thing you can do is limit communication between those younger than 18 and older than 18. Now, you may say, oh, what if they're family? If they're family, that means there's a fucking adult in their life that you can reach out to if they don't have a phone. It's very simple. If I want to talk to my nieces or my nephews, guess what? I call up my brother or my sister-in-law and FaceTime them and chat with my nieces and nephews, none of whom have social media because they're all like young. They're all younger. They don't need to be on social media. But like, it's very simple shit that these companies can do. Another thing, I think this would be really wacky actually, is if there was some sort of a warning when you opened the social media app about the harms that it does to you. Very much like how when you purchase a pack of cigarettes or you buy a bottle of wine or, a spirit, there's a label on there that says that this product is harmful. They do this in Europe with cigarettes too. You get pictures of like lung disease and cancer and people with no fucking feet. There are very simple things that these companies can do that would enact great change, and you don't have to just focus on the user.
That's with the former Chicago mayor, CNN senior political and global affairs commentator Rahm Emanuel, who is the first possible 2028 presidential candidate, possible to come out and talk about this ban. You've come out and said that the United States should follow Australia's lead and consider our own kind of ban on this. What would that look like?
Well, I mean, we would develop it ourselves, but you take any one of these social media apps, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, they have an algorithm that is more powerful than what the adult in a child's life can do. And I think, as we've done on tobacco products, as we've done on telephones in classrooms, as we've done on designated drivers when it comes to drinking and driving, we have done a series of things to help parents protect kids, and they have been effective. There is no doubt when you look at all the...
Why is messaging against drinking and driving effective? I just fucking spoiled it. Because of the messaging behind drinking and driving. There already are there's restrictions on alcohol already. There's regulation on alcohol already. Like, prohibition did not work. It didn't work for adults. It's not going to work for children. But what works is, again, talking to these children like they are adults and explaining the real world consequences of these products and services. I believe that is more effective than an outright ban, because I don't know why, these people are significantly older than me. They have fucking children. Did they forget about the inherently rebellious nature of children and of teenagers more specifically? Like, they are looking for a reason to act out. It's in their fucking nature. Like, they want to be edgy and they want to be cool. And telling them you can't use this because I said so is only going to push them more to do it. Like, not only did these people have children, they were also teenagers. I'm sure they engaged in this manner as well. I engaged in this manner. Everyone engaged in this manner.
Research.
It is also worth noting the parallels here between social media companies and tobacco companies in the 40s and 50s, in the sense that tobacco companies knew that cigarettes were incredibly harmful, and they just decided not to fucking tell anybody because it hurt their bottom line. As we will see in this Time article, another thing that you could do is force these companies to publish annual studies about the dangers of social media. Like, you could do this with alcohol, cigarettes, gambling, any vice that is potentially damaging. You could force them to do this, and again, have monetary penalties for these companies, significant monetary penalties as well. Like, don't just fucking fine Mark Zuckerberg $1 million because he didn't publish this study. He's like the fourth richest man on the planet. You think he gives a fuck about $1 million. Like, you need to hit these companies where it hurts. You need to be authoritarian when it comes to dealing with them. Of course, I'm again speaking in this utopia that I've hallucinated in my mind. That's never going to happen because the fucking entire political class is bought by Mark Zuckerberg and Alphabet and fucking Elon Musk. But in a perfect world, this is how you would conduct this kind of policy agenda.
These social media apps are leading to mental, emotional strain on children, and not only anxiety, but isolation, sense of alienation, and a huge amount of emotional drain. And we're either going to help a parent step in and fight Facebook, or we're going to leave a parent all alone trying to take on the most powerful companies in the world in human history. And it's basically, I really do think this, Jake, it's down to either we put faith in the adults or we put faith in the algorithm.
So Jonathan Haidt in his book makes a persuasive case on the subject. He told me earlier today about the harm these social media platforms have caused kids. Take a listen.
The social media companies, they're deluged with lawsuits and stories of children who died or who had horrible eating disorders and almost died. There are thousands and thousands of parents who are suing these companies because their kids are dead or disfigured. These companies are able to affect children on a scale that no previous consumer product ever did.
What kind of accountability do you think these platforms should face?
Well, look, Jake.
Prison. I think that's fair. Now, obviously, I'm more anti-capitalist than I'm more anti-capitalist than the average person. So, you know, my answer is going to be a little unhinged, but I feel like that would be a decent deterrent, you know? Potentially. But no, instead Mark Zuckerberg he gets to fucking hang out with the president.
I mean, let me just say this. You're a father of young kids. My
Answer
kids
the question, buddy.
of
Holy fuck.
No parent in your kids' classmates, nobody says, I wish my kid was spending more time on the screen on social media. Every one of you are battling the same battle. And the U.S. government that has power that's equal to these companies is sitting on the sidelines. This cuts across party lines, educational lines, racial lines.
Okay, the government is more powerful than any company. What do you mean? These companies literally cannot exist without the fucking United States government. That is a libertarian-based argument, thinking that private business has more power than the government. The government, if it wanted to, could literally put Mark Zuckerberg in prison. The government, if it wanted to, could break up all of these monopolies, but they fucking don't. They don't. Because they don't want to. Because they're a bunch of fucking pussies who are bought by Mark Zuckerberg and by big business.
All types of lines, brings people together. And I do think we should hold these companies accountable. The first step in that accountability is 16 and younger, keep your hands off the kids. They're not your profit margin. They're our future. And we're going to step in and stop it. And I'll say this is, you know, my dad was a pediatrician. I used to do rounds with him. I was going to do early childhood education. And as mayor, we had the most restrictive laws on tobacco to kids. And we saw our smoking among teens drop to low single numbers because we stepped in. Now, we know the consequences. There's been studies.
So I don't know what he means by having the strictest tobacco laws on children. I don't know what that means. You cannot buy tobacco products unless you're 19. At least is it 19 in New York or 21? I don't know. It's either 19 or 21. But I think that also coincides with the fact that people understand that smoking cigarettes in particular, is probably the worst possible thing that you could do to your body. There is a cultural shift centered around both smoking and drinking as well, because Gen Z is drinking alcohol at a rate lower than any generation previously. And I think it's not because of just the regulations alone. It is because of the messaging associated with these products. There is a consensus that it is bad. There is not yet a consensus that social media is bad. Although we are getting closer to that, the propaganda from these companies is still incredibly, incredibly strong.
After study, the question is, are we going to do something about it?
Steven Shana's with me, chief
I
executive.
like how Jake Tapper was like, "What do we do?" And he was like, "My dad was a pediatrician, and I almost became a teacher." Like, what the fuck? I hate him. God, he sucks so bad. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, I keep railing on Mark Zuckerberg, and it is because Mark Zuckerberg is a literal supervillain, okay? He, much like Peter Thiel, is the Antichrist. He is a lizard person. I don't believe that Mark Zuckerberg has any sense of humanity. I'm also targeting him because Facebook has a monopoly on social media, effectively, and their platforms are Facebook and Instagram are two of, I think, like the three. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm trying to train one of my dogs not to bark. So every time that he barks and then stops, I have to give him a treat. And unfortunately, he fucking barks all the time now because our second rescue dog trained him to bark. Yes, I'm talking. Yes, Axel, I'm talking about you. He trained Bowie to bark. Bowie never barked. The same thing happened with my parents' dogs. My parents' oldest dog never my my parents' oldest dog, who has been passed away since 2019, never barked until they got their second dog, who was a barker. Anyway, doesn't fucking matter. We're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is a literal supervillain who I'm targeting because Facebook and Instagram are incredibly popular. I think they're two of the four most popular social media apps, right up there with YouTube and TikTok. But Instagram in particular has a younger base, right? Facebook is cooked. It's a wrap. But Instagram is very damaging to the self-esteem of teenagers because not only because it is social media, but it is picture-based social media. It is one of the more comparative social media apps because you can visibly see someone and think, why don't I look like that? Why aren't I as jacked as that guy? Other social media apps, like video-based apps, don't have that same problem, at least in my opinion. I don't think, because there is some other content for you to fixate on. On Instagram, the person is the content. That's the nature of the app. Well, Mark Zuckerberg, in his infinite evilness, he's so gross. A study uncovered that Facebook would send targeted ads to teenage girls, targeted beauty ads to teenage girls, after it detected that they deleted selfies. This man is so insidious. He is disgusting. He is a fucking ghoul. I hate him. He is making the world worse off. This is another thing you could do as well, is you could just turn off ads served to minors, like anyone younger than 18. That in and of itself would deter lying about someone's age, because that's also a thing now, right? Social media platforms are like, yo, you have to be 13 to use our platform, and people just fucking lie about it. And they're like, oh, well, people are gonna, lie about their age. And like, they're already lying about their age. If you want people not to lie about their age, tell them, hey, are you younger than 18? You won't get ads. You won't get ads. And then guess what? Other people are probably going to fucking lie and be younger than they actually are. But then you could have like other restrictions on that to prevent that. So that way you may not know someone's actual age, but you will know if they are an adult or a minor. I feel like that is also appropriate because guess what? It hits the company where it hurts them the most, and that is their profit. And if you are a big business, I do not give a fuck about you. I do not give a fuck about your profit. I do not see you as a human being if you are Mark Zuckerberg, because you are not. You are a fucking leech who is destroying our civilization. This is an article from Futurism. Facebook allegedly detected when teen girls deleted selfies so it could serve them beauty ads. You might have heard the famous maxim that, quote, if something is free, you're the product. The freemium world of apps and social media have made it nearly indisputable, heralding a previously unimagined tech panopticon known as, quote, surveillance capitalism. Surveillance capitalism came about when some crafty software engineers realized that advertisers were willing to pay big time for our personal data, which builds up as we surf the web. That data helps advertising corporations, quote, understand their audience and, quote, deliver highly relevant content, and has expanded into a global data trade as more and more people spend time online. The data trade is how social media platforms like Google, YouTube, and TikTok make their bones. Pardon me, I'm burping. In 2022, the data industry raked in just north of $274 billion. By 2030, it's expected to explode to just under $700 billion. And as the data trade expands, so too does the tech behind it. What were once chintzy? I've never seen that word before. If endearing tabloid-style pop-ups, doctors hate him. Oh my god, dude. These kinds of ads are all over Pornhub. The porn industry hates him for this one simple trick that grew his dick 4 inches. But yes, these ads used to be everywhere. I remember. And they honestly, they still are. If you surf the web with an ad block, like if you use I think Opera GX has a built-in ad blocker, or you use Firefox like I do, you will get these wacky ass generic ads all over news sites for some reason. Nutritionists hate him. See how he reversed his aging with one weird trick, have now become hyper-personalized ads crafted and delivered for very specific groups of users, a system called, quote, social media targeting. Targeted ads on social media are made possible by analyzing 4 key metrics: personal info, like gender and age; interests, like the music you listen to; your, quote, app behavior, like what websites you browse after watching a YouTube video; and your, quote, psychographics, meaning general trends glossed from your behavior over time, like social values and lifestyle habits. The evolution of these metrics is important to understanding the all-consuming nature of surveillance capitalism. Even a scathing rant about surveillance capitalism becomes fodder for the machine, as you can clearly see with the ads on this page. When deep-pocketed advertisers are involved, positive and negative traits alike become dollar signs, search terms to be probed, analyzed, and used for profit. A recent tell-all book from former Facebook insider Sarah Wynne Williams titled Careless People is blowing the lid on the sheer depravity of the social media giant's targeted machine. Wynne Williams worked at Facebook, which subsequently changed its name to Meta a few years back, from 2011 to 2017, eventually rising to the role of public policy director. This rebrand, by the way, was done entirely because of the negative attention that Facebook was garnering for a slew of reasons, whether it be the Cambridge Analytica scandal, whether it be the misinformation and disinformation it helped sow all throughout 2016 and 2020, whether it be related to elections or the COVID vaccine. Like, this was intentional, making it Meta. It wasn't just to put all of its products under one company. It was to get away from all of the negative PR. As early as 2017, Wynne Williams writes, Facebook was exploring ways to expand its ad targeting abilities to 13 to 17-year-olds across Facebook and Instagram, a decidedly vulnerable group, often in the throes of adolescent image and social crises. Though Facebook's ad algorithms are notoriously opaque, in 2017, the Australian alleged that the company had crafted a pitch deck for advertisers, bragging that it could exploit, quote, moments of psychological vulnerability, end quote, in its users by targeting terms like, quote, these are all quotes, by the way, worthless, insecure, stressed, defeated, anxious, stupid, useless, and like a failure. The social media company likewise tracked when adolescent girls deleted selfies, quote, so it can serve a beauty ad to them at that moment, according to Wynne Williams. Other examples of Facebook ad lechery are said to include the targeting of young mothers based on their emotional state, as well as emotional indexes mapped to racial groups like Hispanic and African American feeling fantastic over indexed. They have used psychology to develop these apps. This is all rooted in psychology. All of it. And Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and everybody in the C-suite knew this, and they supported it because it makes the green line grow up. These companies do not give a fuck about you or your safety. When Mark Zuckerberg sees a normal person, he does not see a human with thoughts and feelings. He sees a fucking dollar sign. Remember that. When you think that I'm depraved or that I'm mean for bullying somebody like Mark Zuckerberg, remember that they are infinitely more depraved and infinitely more apathetic towards regular people than I am to the billionaire class. Quote, to me, this type of surveillance and monetization of young teens' sense of worthlessness feels like a concrete step toward the dystopian future Facebook's critics have long warned of. The author says that when the news first broke in 2017, the executives behind the advertising drive were nonplussed. The company crafted a cookie-cutter statement, quote, we take this situation very seriously and are taking every effort to remedy the situation. A junior researcher was fired, of course, because why fire a senior researcher? Quote, even though that poor researcher was most likely just doing what their boss wanted, another nameless young woman who was treated as cannon fodder. This is what I was talking about in the beginning when I said that sometimes people will do unethical things because it is the nature of the system. A junior researcher may have joined Facebook because they legitimately thought that the product was good or they are interested in social media. They may not have been doing it maliciously, but they were made to do it maliciously when their fucking boss, a senior researcher who knew better, told them to. So that's why I try not to point blame at individuals. Because ultimately, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, and sometimes that applies to working in capitalism as well. That's why I direct my anger and resentment towards the people at the tops of these companies, because they are the ones making the decisions. And yet, work on this kind of sleazy ad targeting continued. Wynne Williams writes that the deputy chief policy officer at the time confirmed, quote, not only does Facebook offer this type of customized behavioral targeting, but that, quote, there's a product team working on a tool that would allow advertisers to do this themselves without Facebook's help. Wynne Williams says that as she worked to wrap her head around her company's sorted revenue model and craft effective PR statements, her bosses raged at the idea that there was any problem with targeting vulnerable youth. Oh my God. I'm not going to say anything because I will definitely get demonetized. And if I'm not already on a list for the Trump administration, I will be. But just know that I hope all of these individuals involved have to live the rest of their lives in a house without footwear where the floor is made entirely of Legos. Meta took legal action against the book, forcing Wynne Williams to stop promoting it, but that didn't stop it from becoming a bestseller. Quote, this is the business, Sarah. We're proud of it, one of the top advertising executives told her. Quote, we shout this from the rooftops. This is what puts money in our pockets, and these statements make it look like it's something nefarious. These people are not, they are literally not human. They're not. They're psychopaths. They're psychopaths, straight up. I don't understand how you can look at teenagers and have this much apathy towards them. In a response to questions about the book, a Meta spokesperson didn't directly address Wynne Williams' claims, but pointed to a 2017 blog post the company published about the Australians reporting. Quote, the premise of the article is misleading, it read. Facebook does not offer tools to target people based on their emotional state. It doesn't offer tools, it just offers analytics. The analysis done by an Australian researcher was intended to help marketers understand how people express themselves on Facebook. It was never used to target ads and was based on data that was anonymous and aggregated. The age of surveillance capitalism has brought us many dystopian horrors, which tech researchers and journalists are working tirelessly to uncover. Among them, it seems, is the monetization of despair and insecurity, the skin-crawling epitome of everything that those critics have been saying about surveillance capitalism from the start. As the philosopher Antonio Gramsci wrote from his prison cell in fascist Italy, quote, "The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters." To piggyback off of this and to further highlight the depravity of Facebook, there's this article from Time that may or may not be paywalled. We will see. Even if it is paywalled, I plagiarized its contents for the sake of this video, just in case, because this is so damning. This is so damning. There are court filings that allege Meta downplayed risks to children and misled the public. We are going to go through all of them. Again, courtesy of Time. Sex trafficking on Meta platforms was both difficult to report and widely tolerated, according to court filings unsealed Friday. Oh, by the way, this is from November of this year. This is recent. I was going to talk about it when it originally dropped, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because now there's more. This is just more evidence for my fuck Facebook agenda. In a plaintiff's brief filed as part of a major lawsuit against 4 social media companies, Instagram's former head of safety and well-being, Vaishnavi Jayakumar, testified that when she joined Meta in 2020, she was shocked to learn that the company had a, quote, 17x strike policy for accounts that were reportedly engaged in the trafficking of humans for sex. Meaning you can incur 16 violations for prostitution and sexual solicitation, and upon the 17th violation, your account would be suspended. That's not all. The following allegations, quote, Meta has designed social media products and platforms that it is aware are addicted to kids, and they're aware that those addictions lead to a whole host of serious mental health issues, said Previn Warren, the co-lead attorney for the plaintiffs in the case. Quote, like tobacco, this is a situation where there are dangerous products that are marketed to kids. They did it anyway because more usage meant more profits for the company. So the first of these, of course, Facebook is like, we strongly condemn these allegations. We rely on cherry-picked quotes and misinformed opinions in an attempt to present a deliberately misleading picture. What's funny about this justification is that at least 3 of these allegations come from internal reporting. So the full record will show that for over a decade, we have listened to parents, researched issues that matter most, and made real changes to protect teens, like introducing teen accounts with built-in protections and providing parents with controls to manage their teens' experiences. Whatever. The first allegation. Meta had a high threshold for sex trafficking content and no way to report CSAM material. Despite Instagram's zero tolerance policy for child sex abuse material, the platform did not offer users a simple way to report CSAM, according to the brief. Plaintiffs allege that Jayakumar raised the issue multiple times when she joined Meta in 2020, but was told it would be too difficult to address, yet Instagram allowed users to easily report far less serious violations like spam, intellectual property theft, and promotion of firearms, according to plaintiffs. This is so funny because I've had multiple friends of mine get their accounts hacked by like crypto miners who are like, I just found this coin. It's called Dickcoin. Can you like send me some money? I'll invest you in it. And you can, from the DM, report that. Like, what the fuck, man? This is actual criminal behavior that Facebook is aiding and abetting. Quote, Meta never told parents, the public, or the districts that it doesn't delete accounts that have engaged over 15 times in sex trafficking. A Meta spokesperson disputed this allegation. Yeah, obviously, I don't give a fuck what they have to say. Allegation 2. Meta lied to Congress about its knowledge of harms on the platform. For years, plaintiffs allege, Meta's internal research had found that teenagers who frequently use Instagram and Facebook have higher rates of depression and anxiety. In 2019, according to the brief, Meta designed a, quote, deactivation study. Meta designed this study, which found that users who stopped using Facebook and Instagram for a week showed lower rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. Meta halted the study and did not publicly disclose the results, stating that the research study was biased by the, quote, existing media narratives around the company. A Meta spokesperson told Time that the study was initially conceived as a pair of 1 week's pilots and researchers declined to continue it because it found that the only reductions in feelings of depression, anxiety, and loneliness was among people who already believed Facebook was bad for them. Big Tobacco did the same shit back in the 40s and 50s. They hid the results of research that showed how bad their product was. It's so funny that, like, what is this justification? Researchers declined to continue the study because they found, like, this stipulation. You can still publish the study and say that the results indicated this was only alleviated in people who already believed the social media platform was bad for them. You can have a study that has a caveat in it. This is, that's just how research is conducted. You don't need to halt the study. At least one Meta employee was uncomfortable with the implications of this decision. Quote, if the results are bad and we don't publish and they leak, it is going to look like tobacco companies doing research and knowing cigs were bad and then keeping that info to themselves. Yeah, indeed. In December 2020, when the Senate Judiciary Committee asked the company in a set of written questions whether it was, quote, able to determine whether increased use of its platform among teenage girls has any correlation with increased signs of depression and increased signs of anxiety, the company only offered a one-word answer. No, lie. It does. It does. The plaintiffs in this case, the implication is clear. The company never publicly disclosed the results of the deactivation study. Instead, Meta lied to Congress about what it knew. Prison, by the way, that is a crime. That is perjury. You perjured whoever gave this statement. Allegation. The company knew Instagram was letting adults connect with teenagers. For years, Instagram has had a well-documented problem of adults harassing teens. Around 2019, company researchers recommended making all teen accounts private by default in order to prevent adult strangers from connecting with kids, according to the platform's brief. Instead of implementing this recommendation, because of course, why would they, Meta asked its growth team to study the potential impact of making all teen accounts private. The growth team was pessimistic, according to the brief, and responded that the change would likely reduce engagement. Capitalism is horrible because it leads people to make decisions like this. It leads people to put profit over people, which is one of the fundamental principles of capitalism. There's something that you guys need to understand about people who work in the growth department for any major corporation. The growth department operates with the mindset that you continuously have to grow regardless of the expense. All of the metrics have to go up. It doesn't matter what the consequences are. There must be more users on these platforms. We must increase engagement. We must increase revenue. Growth teams literally operate in the same way that cancer cells operate. Cancer occurs as an overgrowth of cells. These cells keep multiplying. It's literally the same. It's literally the same. By 2020, the growth team had determined that a private by default setting would result in a loss of 1.5 million monthly active teens a year on Instagram. The plaintiff's quotes believed an unnamed employee as, quote, the plaintiff's brief quotes an unnamed employee as saying, quote, taking away unwanted interactions is likely to lead to a potentially untenable problem with engagement and growth. Over the next several months, plaintiffs allege Meta policy, legal, communications, privacy, and well-being teams all recommended making teen accounts private by default, arguing that the switch will increase teen safety and was in line with expectations from users, parents, and regulators. But Meta did not launch that feature. What I was saying earlier, if Meta does not implement this, it's a 10% fine. It's a 10% fine based on revenue. I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of these companies. I'm so fucking sick of capitalism. I know, surprise, but I'm over the fact that these companies can literally do whatever the fuck they want and have no recourse. Mark Zuckerberg is lucky that I'm not advocating to take away 99% of his personal fucking wealth if he doesn't implement these programs. And I'm about to fucking get there. I'm about to be at that fucking position because this is the third allegation and I'm already fucking mad at Meta. Safety researchers were dismayed. According to excerpts of an internal conversation quoted in the filing, one allegedly grumbled, quote, "Isn't safety the whole point of this team?" Quote, Meta knew that placing teens into a default private setting would have eliminated 5.4 million unwanted interactions daily, the plaintiffs wrote. Still, Meta didn't make a fix. Instead, inappropriate interactions between adults and kids on Instagram skyrocketed to 38 times that on Facebook Messenger, according to the brief. The launch of Instagram Reels allegedly compounded the problem. It allowed young teenagers to broadcast short videos to a wide audience, including adult strangers. There was, I want to say a report. It wasn't really a report. It was just a TikToker, but they found that, and TikTok has this same problem. TikTok found that videos of young children are significantly more likely to have a comparable number of bookmarks to likes. I don't think I need to explain to you who is doing that. Usually on TikTok, if a TikTok has like 10,000 bookmarks, it is likely to have probably like 100,000 likes. I'm thinking of like how-to videos, DIY videos, cooking videos, like those kinds of videos have a lot of bookmarks. Like tourism videos as well have a lot of bookmarks. Social media platforms are inherently unsafe for children. An internal 2020 audit allegedly found that Instagram's accounts you may follow feature recommended 1.4 million potentially inappropriate adults to teenage users in a single day. By 2023, according to the plaintiffs, Meta knew that they were recommending minors to potentially suspicious adults and vice versa. It wasn't until 2024 that Meta rolled out default privacy settings to all teen accounts. In the 4 years it took the company to implement their own safety recommendations, teens experienced billions of unwanted interactions with strangers online. Inappropriate encounters between teens and adults were common enough, according to the brief, that the company had an acronym for them, IIC, or Inappropriate Interactions with Children. A Meta spokesperson said the company had defaulted teens under 16 to private accounts since 2021, began defaulting teens under 18 to private accounts with the introduction of its teen accounts program, and has taken steps to protect users from online predators. Allegation, and this is one that is possibly the second most insidious compared to the one that we just read. Meta aggressively targeted young users. Oh my god, I just fucking swallowed my water. Ugh. Meta feared. Oh my god, I can't talk now. It's cooked. Meta feared young users would abandon Facebook and Instagram for their competitors. Acquiring and keeping young users became a central business goal. Mark Zuckerberg suggested that, quote, teen time spent be our top goal of 2017. Who else is like prison? Anybody? Is anyone down for that? According to a company executive quoted in the brief, that has remained the case, plaintiffs allege. Internal company documents from 2024 stated that, quote, acquiring new teen users is mission critical to the success of Instagram. Meta launched a campaign to connect with school districts and paid organizations like the National Parent-Teacher Association and Scholastic to conduct outreach to schools and families. Meanwhile, according to the brief, Meta used location data to push notifications to students in, quote, school blasts, presumably as part of an attempt to increase youth engagement during the school day. Gross. As one employee allegedly put it, quote, one of the things we need to optimize for is sneaking a look at your phone under your desk in the middle of chemistry. There's a whole nationwide initiative, I think, definitely statewide here in New York, of schools removing phones from students during class time And as someone who went to school without a phone until I was in 6th grade, I wholeheartedly support that idea. I've heard parents say that they need to be able to contact their school. They need to be able, or they want to be able to contact their student, holy shit, their child throughout the day. And I understand where they're coming from as a parent, but this is a new phenomenon. Phones were not always in school, and we got along just fine. In fact, the only reason that my parents got me a phone when I was in 6th grade was because my school district took us on a trip to Philadelphia. Every year, the 6th grade class went to Philadelphia. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all had an annual trip to Philly, Boston, and Washington, D.C. My parents got me a phone so they could communicate with me while I was out of state, and because they didn't want to bother my friend who had a phone in 6th grade already. This phone had like, I don't know, 25 minutes on it, I think, maybe, because it was a 3-day trip. I couldn't text. There was no internet. I literally only used it to call my parents when the day was finished and when I got back from the field trip to get picked up. You can survive in school without your phone. Maybe I'm a Luddite, but I don't care. I'm accepting my assessment as a Luddite. I don't think that students should be able to use their phones in school. It's a distraction. It's potentially impacting performance. And I think it's a good thing that schools are mandating that phones be kept in their lockers during class time. Every district is different here in New York. Some of them prohibit them entirely. Some of them, you have to leave them in their lockers during school time. If there is a problem, the parent can call the school. Again, this is a new phenomenon. Though Meta aggressively pursued young users, it may not have known exactly how old these new users were. Whistleblower Jason Sadazan recently testified to Congress that Meta does not reliably know the age of its users. Meta pushed back on this testimony, saying that his claims were nonsense and, quote, based on selectively leaked internal documents. In 2022, according to the plaintiff's briefs, there were 216 users on Meta's platform whose age was unknown. Federal law requires social media platforms to observe various data policy safeguards for users under 13, and Meta policy states that users under 13 are not allowed to be on its platforms, yet the plaintiff's court filing claims Meta knew that children under 13 used the company's products anyway. Internal research cited in the brief suggested that there were 4 million under 13 users on Instagram in 2018. By 2018, Meta knew that roughly 40% of children aged 9 to 12 said they used Instagram daily. The plaintiffs allege that this was deliberate. The brief describes a coordinated effort to acquire young users that included studying the psychology and digital behavior of tweens and exploring new products designed for users as young as ages 5 through 10. Internally, some employees expressed disgust. Quote, "Oh good, we're going after younger than 13-year-olds now? Zuck has been talking about that for a while. Targeting 11-year-olds feels like tobacco companies a couple decades ago, and today, like we're seriously saying we have to hook them young here." Allegation. Meta's executives initially shelved efforts to make Instagram less toxic. To combat toxic, quote, social comparison in 2019, the Instagram CEO Adam Moresi announced a new product feature that would hide likes on Instagram posts. Meta researchers had determined that hiding likes would make users, quote, significantly less likely to feel worse about themselves. But after a series of tests, Meta backtracked on the project. It determined the feature was, quote, pretty negative to Facebook metrics, including ad revenue, according to the plaintiff's brief, which quoted an unnamed employee on Teen Growth insisting, quote, it's a social comparison app. Fucking get used to it. The irony is not lost on me that I guarantee all of these people, all of the higher-ups at Facebook, and I know Mark Zuckerberg does not allow his children to use his products, I guarantee they are all like that because they are all fucking disgusting pigs who know how damaging their product is to children. A similar debate took place over the app's beauty filters. Plaintiffs claim that an internal review conducted beauty filters exacerbated the, quote, risk and maintenance of several mental health concerns, including body dissatisfaction, eating disorders, and body dysmorphia, and that Meta knew that, quote, children are particularly vulnerable. Meta banned beauty filters in 2019, only to roll them back after the company realized that banning them would have a, quote, negative growth impact. Quote, Meta actually doesn't remove harmful content. This one's short, so I'll just summarize it for you guys. In short, Meta AI classifiers did not automatically delete posts that glorified self-harm unless they were 94% certain they violated platform policy. In a 2021 internal company survey cited by plaintiffs, more than 8% of respondents from ages 13 to 15 reported having seen someone harm themselves or threatened to do so on Instagram during the past week. This is also very damaging to your psyche to see stuff like this. Being on social media is very damaging because, like, at any given time, you can literally just see a fucking dead person. You can see someone's arm blown off, especially with the ongoing genocide in Gaza. You can open up Twitter any day and be liable to see a dead baby. Things that you're not supposed to see, images that humans are not supposed to be able to see on a regular basis. It is horrifying, the consequences of that. Allegation: Meta knew its products were addictive but publicly downplayed the harms. This is the last one, and then we'll probably wrap up for today because I'm at an hour and a half and I only talked about 2 stories, and we'll save the Gavin Newsom thing for another time. The addictive nature of the company's products wasn't a secret internally. Quote, oh my gosh, y'all, Instagram is a drug. One of the company's user experience researchers allegedly wrote to a colleague, quote, we're basically pushers. Meta does not officially study addiction to its products, plaintiffs allege. It studies, quote, problematic use, because addiction is a negative PR word in Facebook's estimation. In 2018, company researchers surveyed 20,000 Facebook users in the U.S. That is a massive sample size, by the way, and found that 58% had some level of, quote unquote, problematic use, 55% mild, and 3% severe. But when Meta published an account of this research the following year, only the smaller number of users with the, quote unquote, severe problematic use was mentioned. Quote, we estimate as an upper bound that 3.1% of Facebook users in the U.S. experienced problematic use. The other 55% of users were not mentioned anywhere in the report. This is how you lie with research. You're not technically lying. You are instead lying by omission. You are not giving the reader of this study the full assessment. You are not properly highlighting the harm. Plaintiffs allege that Meta's safety team proposed design features to lessen addiction only to see them set aside or watered down. One employee who helped develop a, quote, quiet mode feature said it was shelved because Meta was concerned that this feature would negatively impact metrics related to growth and usage. Unfortunately, this quiet mode is not defined, but I would imagine it's kind of like a do not disturb, where you just silence all notifications from that app, whether it be internally or externally, in the sense that after a certain time, Instagram just won't send you push notifications if you have them enabled. Around the same time, another user experience researcher at Instagram allegedly recommended that Meta inform the public about his research findings, quote, because our product exploits weaknesses in the human psychology to promote product engagement and time spent, Meta needs to alert people to the effect that the product has on their brain. Meta did not, and it is for that reason why I want Mark Zuckerberg to have 99% of his personal wealth stripped from him for not complying with these